Hello everyone. I hope you are having a wonderful day. I wanted to tell you that I am making an altered book for a friend of mine, a very dear friend, and I'm really excited to make this project for her. Her birthday is in January, so this is a gift for her birthday. So in this video, I'm going to show you the process that I took to create her altered book.
Hi friends, thanks for joining me today. I have something kind of special planned for today. The video that you're about to watch is exactly 1 year old. I have been hanging on to this video because I want to talk to you about what I've learned over this past year. This book that I have created in this video is my very first altered book, and to go back while editing and look at this to see some things I do the same, some things I do different, and that's what I wanted to share with you is what did I do wrong? What would I do differently now? How can I improve upon it? So that's what we are going to do in this video. We are going to start off by my showing you what I'm working with. This is the book I'm going to actually use. It's a nice sized book. It's not too big, it's not too small. So that's what I will use to create the altered book. I went through my stash. I picked out some cards to work with so I could pull out meaningful sayings. I have some stickers that I bought specifically for this project. And so that's what you're seeing now. Now I'm going to go ahead and choose the papers that I want to work with from this paper pack that I had bought. I am cutting the paper to size that I want to use on the front and back cover, and then also on the front and back inside covers. Nothing different that I would do so far. This would be a standard operating procedure for me even still. So I'm cutting these papers and I notice that I end up writing on the back of the paper, whether it's the front or the back or the inside or whatever. And I kind of like that I did that. I probably haven't done that in a really long time, but I do think that's a nice way to get organized, to stay organized, and then not confuse, which pieces go on which side. And you might think it wouldn't matter, but sometimes depending on where the patterns are, it would matter. This book is a relatively small book as far as depth, and so I'm actually only removing 4 pages for each page that I'm going to design on. But typically I would remove 7, but again, this book does not have a ton of pages, so I'm just removing 4. Okay, I have spotted something that I would change now. Marking my page size, what I just did, that was perfectly fine. Cutting it, that's all fine. But we're coming into something that I would change, which is I use this piece of paper and I take it all the way across the spread. I don't cut it into 2 separate squares. So that is not something I would do again, and I will explain why. I have learned since creating this book that if you do it like this, the part that goes over the spine will end up cracking over time. Now, I will say I added plenty of glue, and I know that I put the paper deep down in between, like deep down into the spine, so it may last a little bit longer, but it's still possible that at some point in time it will crack. So then we don't want to do that. We want to cut our 2 sheets, adhere them to the actual book pages instead of going across the whole spread like I did here. So on this next page is an example of how we do want to do it. I had cut this page to size and I end up adhering it to the book, and all should be fine for this particular spread. Here I am simply layering the page. There's nothing different that I would do here. I think all this was perfectly fine. I've already told you what I wouldn't do again, which is using a piece of paper over the entire spread, including the spine area. But I'm just showing you this little part one more time because it's a particularly good view of what I was trying to explain to you. I went ahead and did a few pages before I did the inside cover. I don't always work in perfect order. That's something I still practice today, a year later. I don't always work in order. Sometimes my brain likes to process a certain area while I'm working on a different area, and then I'll go back to it and work on it. So that's why I'm just now doing the inside cover, but not really, any new techniques as far as this goes. I'm happy with how I did this. Actually, there is a new technique that I have. You see me pushing the glue down with my fingers, and yes, I am being very thorough about that. I find that to be very important, but you'll notice later in the video I end up using a pen, and then you'll notice even later in this video I have had a light bulb moment and I started using a pair of scissors, and to this day I use scissors to press my glue down. It presses it down, it presses it around, it makes the paper perfectly flat, and they're easy to hold. It doesn't strain my hand to hold them and to put that kind of pressure on them. So that is definitely a new technique. I did learn something while working with vellum. So as most of you who work with vellum know, everything seems to show through. So I've learned that double stick tape shows through. I've learned that glue actually wrinkles the vellum. It dries and it'll get a little bit straighter when it's dry, but it tends to wrinkle it. I have learned since this project and a few others that hot glue doesn't show through. So if you guys also know of a technique of using vellum and adhering it without it showing through, please let me know. I think what I ended up doing in some of this project, if I remember correctly, was, you'll see here, I put the glue right under the words so it would kind of like blend in a little bit. But let me know if you have any secrets about adhering vellum besides hot glue. Hot glue does work, so you guys can always give that a try. Coming up, I'm going to lift the book up and try to show you like how when you remove 3 or 4 pages, it leaves space in the book so that you can embellish the pages. I don't know if you can see. I'm going to try to get a close-up. You can see when I remove some of the pages, it creates a little gap. I think you can see light through it when I do that. And that way, as I adorn the pages, there's space for that and the book will still close properly. Like I'm going to add something here, probably here. So the pages will get fuller as I add things and stickers and all that good stuff. Alright, so this is where you'll see me using my pen to move the glue around and make sure that it's all spread out and the paper is flat and not lumpy. But I no longer use a pen. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, I now use scissors to spread my glue around. The handle side of the scissors, not the sharp side. So while the glue is wet, I like to check each page. I shared this with you before, but I like to check each page to see if there's any gaps. And if there are, I can usually squeeze, while the glue is wet, kind of squeeze some of the glue. Like there's a little gap in this corner, but I think I could probably squeeze some of the glue up in there. And if not, and the gap was pretty bad, I could just use tape, but I'm thinking I can get the glue up there. So I check all the edges that way before I move on, and while it's wet, it's easy to work with it that way. I would say that little part that I just showed you, still accurate. You could see that I'm very detailed about making sure all of the edges are adhered properly. And that is something that is important to me. Having an eye for that detail is extremely important, and I would not want the edges of the book to be, coming undone in a few years. So that's definitely a technique that I still do. Check the fit before we put the glue on. That looks good. I might want to take a little more off. It's going to be really jammed up in here, and I don't want it to crease. So I'm going to take a little more off of this inside. This paper is so pretty. It feels good. It's nice and smooth. So in my first few pages, I didn't use the pen to press it down, but I'm glad I started doing that because it literally makes it so much smoother, and I like that. So, all right, this page is so pretty. So I have these sparkly gems, and excuse the glue on my fingers. I want to put them on the page. They're sticking to my fingers because of the glue. Anyway, I want to put them on the page, but I don't want them sticking out and pressing into the other pages. So I grabbed my hole punch, and I'm thinking, if we look at the width of this, I don't know if you can see. Anyway, it's pretty thick actually, but even if I just put a hole through like 5 pages and then glued the pages together, it might help so these aren't sticking out so much. So we're gonna experiment with that and see how that turns out. Something I have to think about and consider when doing this is when you open a book, the pages shift, and when you close the book, they shift straight. And when you open them, you see there's a little curve here, like it leans. So if I did the holes with the hole punch for the diamonds, then how do I make it so that even though the book is moving, it's not a problem? So I'm not sure. I have to think about that. Okay, I've just answered the question in my head. So if we glue, let's say, these 5 pages together, I hole punch through them first, like this, and then glue them together so that when the book opens and closes, it closes as one sheet. That's the way to do it. So we're gonna experiment and see if that'll work. All right, so here's 5 sheets, and actually it's pretty good thickness. So, and I wanna do 3 diamonds. So I'm gonna do that again in a little pattern. I'm gonna go at it at this side. See, when I do it this way, the shape of the circle changes. So I'm gonna go through that way just to clean it up. It won't be a perfect circle now, but I don't know. I just feel like I need to do this. The 6th page, this one, is gonna be, this little thing will sit in there, sit on it. So it's gonna go in like that. Oh yeah, that works. It went right in there. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, it's sparkly. So that's what we're gonna do. Let me get it out of there. I'm gonna glue the pages together, and then we'll put a drop of glue inside here and pop those in, and I will be very happy. I'm just smoothing the glue out that's on the pages. I believe this is the moment that I had the realization that it would be easier to smooth out the pages with scissors rather than using a pen. And I've been doing it with scissors ever since. Oozing out of there. I'm gonna wipe that out. I don't want it to ooze out yet because I don't want it to take up space. I want the bling to be able to slide right in there. Okay, this is pretty wild, but we did it. So what I think I might do so that it can open properly is put a little bend in here somehow, like kind of rub this down and set this up. Let's see. This is pointy. Do something with this. Kind of bend this way. Yeah, let's try this. Let's push it all the way down. Let's see what happens with that. I want to keep it as one page obviously, because that's the whole point. But I want it to flip properly and open so that the recipient can enjoy looking at pages beyond this one. So if we put this little bend in here like this, I think that'll work. So let's go back here. So it curves this a little bit, which is not a big deal. I'm thinking what I'll do with that is check it for dryness. Okay, it's a little, feels like it's a little moist in there from the glue. I'm gonna put a piece of tape in there to keep the pink paper down. Fast forwarding a year now, looking back on how I used tape in the book, I would choose not to do that again. I do not trust it for longevity. I have learned new skills and techniques on how to do this sort of thing without having to use tape. So I would say no to the tape. And now we'll flip this giant thick page, and it's bending. So if you look at this, let me show you this way. So here it is, and it's bending like that, which I think that's great. I think that's as good as it's gonna get, is to bend like that. I think that's the best we could ask for. I mean, I've never done this before, so I'm happy with how that's gonna work. We can go ahead and drop our little rhinestones in there. Now I'm gonna pop this in there. All right. Do the next one. So, up close for you. Here it is. Oh, that's so cute. It'll look better even when it dries. So, we'll let it dry and we'll move on to our next page. All right, I'm making a junk book for a friend. I'm not sure if that's what everybody calls them. Okay, that made me laugh. It is actually an altered book. All right, friends, that's going to be it for this video. I just wanted to go through, show you what we've learned in a year's time while making an altered book. You know, I've definitely upped my game. My techniques are different and improved, certainly from this first experimentation that I had. So I hope that we all learned something today and observed some things. And I hope that it encourages you to, if you've never done something, just jump right in, because, you know, nothing bad is going to happen. Just do it. Thanks for watching. See you soon.